Such a wonderful introduction and inviting me to be here with you all. I want to also add that I'm here because of the gracious invitation from my dear friend Brian Toe here sitting in the front row, who I've considered a close friend and also a mentor as well. My family's known Brian for probably 30 years, going back to his days in San Francisco. And when traveling around the globe like I frequently do, it's hard not to notice magazine stands and Forbes exalting one of Asia's greatest thinkers. So when someone advises CEOs and leaders and presidents of nations, and he personally invites you to come and sit and babble to you guys, all I ask for is the time and the address to show up. So I've been fortunate enough to absorb some of Brian's teachings in a lot of different professional settings, and I'm pleased to announce that I'm probably only a few credits shy from earning my EMBA in life from the University of Bryan. That was a joke. So I figure I will dive right in and give you some additional color on my background if I can get this pointer to work. So I spent a decade covering ultra-high net worth families here in Southeast Asia for UBS out of New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. The international private wealth business was a niche business versus the domestic business. And I covered the international side for a decade with UBS. I attribute that to a somewhat of an antiquated way that our parents, or at least my parents, did business back in the day. I guess you can call it back in the old days. So because of geopolitical risk, security risks, there was a desire to have assets in the United States. And that opinion was attractive up until the point where the regulatory framework, compliance, and worldwide tax initiatives became increasingly painful to justify that effort. So I guess my parents, in short, really didn't have the same options they do today. Back then, the market could bear what the market can bear. So the following 5 years, after my time at UBS, I spent at Morgan Stanley. And because of these regulatory changes, I felt like there was a paradigm shift amongst many of my colleagues to focus more domestically versus working with international clients and flying out here to Asia and being out here quarterly, spending 7 or 10 days in the market. And it was interesting because I became a little disenchanted with the industry as a whole. Effectively, I worked at two really premier Wall Street firms between UBS and Morgan Stanley. And I guess the question that I came across more times than not was, were these firms and do these firms have your best interest at heart? I didn't think they really did, and I didn't think that they served these families that we worked with very well. We were in the service industry, and we were only as good as our clients were happy, but also, what was their money really doing for them? So these Wall Street firms are mostly made up of very ethical people who do their job. However, what is their job? What are they trained really to do? And at the end of the day, and again, it's nothing to say anything terrible about these firms that I worked with, but there was a little bit of an epiphany. These firms are asset gatherers. They built a culture that incentivizes the manufacturing and selling of their own products. Many of their solutions are really one-size-fits-all, meaning you're going to invest a capital, I guess you could say a $5 million pool of capital, the same as you would manage $50 million. So I think the takeaway here really is a lot of my colleagues were purely salespeople dressed up as investors. And I think that was really a big red flag to me. So at my current firm, at SCS, we focus on strategies, which reminds me, I don't know if anyone's ever seen this commercial. There's a Candid Camera commercial out in the States. I don't know if it's made it out here, but there was a clean-cut man wearing a suit and he sits in a financial services office and he's pitching people off the street. He's using buzzwords like risk tolerant and asset allocation, and his audience is asked if they would trust him with their money. The big reveal is that 12 hours earlier, this guy had dreadlocks, he came in with sweatpants, and he is an electronic DJ. And he was coached into using the right terminology. Now that's an exaggeration, taking a very satirical look at how easily someone can look the part and dress the part, and how easily people can be fooled if someone does that. But the point is still valid, and it is quite an eye-opener. So essentially, does the team that oversees your assets, do they have real tangible experience investing and not selling products? What's their track record? You know, are they a true investor that sells solutions, or are they, you know, an advisor that you might be able to expose if you actually ask those questions? So pivoting a little bit, you know, thinking about great businesses. You know, great businesses are born when they are intuitively disruptive, and if you can make a great experience a transcendent one. So SCS started, my firm, SCS started 16 years ago to meet the wealth strategy and investment management needs of very wealthy families. So the founder of the firm, who was supposed to be here tonight, is a gentleman by the name of Peter Mattoon. He fell ill, and I decided that I will continue on, and I didn't want to disappoint the audience here, so I wanted to kind of, you know, tell our story in Pete's absence. And so Pete had a liquidity event in 1998. He worked at an online investment house called Scudder, Stevens & Clark. So he ran the international business and was the COO. There were 5 partners, which he was one of them, and the company sold for $2.5 billion to a company called Zurich Financial. So after the earnout, he was free to leave, and he did just that. He had a pile of cash, and he looked at his options: Wall Street firm or an independent firm. Back in 2002, and still very much true today, the vast majority of advice offered to ultra-high net worth families was filled with bias and conflicts of interest. So the bank and brokerage firms are inherently, as we talked about earlier, product manufacturing and distribution businesses. They wrap a seemingly advice-filled sales pitch around structured equity products or private equity fund of funds, but their principal job is to sell their clients products and receive fees and commissions, not to essentially sell sound strategic advice. Now, these independent firms at the time, they were safe, but they lacked sophistication. They had no conflicts of interest, but they had no products to sell either. So the founders of my firm said, why can't we provide brilliant advice, equally strong investment solutions that are custom for every family, and never have any of these conflicts of interest? We provide a service, not products. Our view is that if we simply do the right thing for our clients every day, then our clients will thrive in SCS, and we'll do well, and the owners of the company will do well as a natural consequence. So, and that proved to be true. Where we stand today, we have 100 employees across 3 locations. We oversee $22 billion for those families. We are the leading and one of the largest multifamily offices in the country. So it's called the MFO space, and we are the largest who solely focuses on very wealthy families. So let me make sure that we're still on the right slide here. It is a miracle that they succeeded back in 2002, 2003, 2004. You know, Pete and the founders started with 0 clients. And it was really simply an idea. We were able to attract and retain some of the best talent in the industry, and it really worked because of the culture. And that's probably a theme that we can kind of keep coming back to. Working hard, being smart, being honest, being transparent is something you really either fit into or you don't. The core of our values is to always act in our clients' best interest, never having them, solving for our clients' problems, not just talking about them. So we provide superior investment advice, and superior returns within a predetermined risk constraint for each and every portfolio. So our clients, similar to this audience here, are all entrepreneurs in one shape or form or another. They're business builders who created a very valuable business. They built a business based on a single idea, created a single strategic business plan, built a good team, and executed that plan brilliantly. Then years later, they sold some or all of the businesses, whether through an IPO or a strategic sale. The sale led to a pile of cash and many new issues to consider that are very different than running their prior business. Many of our clients have little to no knowledge whatsoever on capital markets, tax minimization, estate planning, family risk management, or how these components fit into an overall future plan that is strategically intelligent. This is what we solve for our clients. We build and implement a financial strategy and all of the underlying tactics that is the plan for the family for the next 20 or 30 years. So a key challenge that our clients face is how to successfully transition this wealth over generations. What are the key ingredients? So I'm going to talk a little tonight, now that I've given you a little bit of a background on who I am and what it is that we do. I'm going to talk